Hi guys, my name is Kagal and today I'm going to talk about another very special lens for Micro Four Thirds system, which is Olympus 30mm with maximum aperture f3.5 for macro. So if you're interested to get some more information about this lens, definitely stay until the end of this video. And just for your information, this is fully independent review because I'm not sponsored by Panasonic nor Olympus. So let's get it done. It is a prime lens with focal length of 30mm, which is 60mm equivalent in terms of full-frame cameras, which provides the angle of view around 40 degrees. The minimum focus distance of this lens is only 10 cm, which offers macro magnification 1.25 to 1. It is equivalent of 2.5 to 1 for full-frame cameras. The lens operates with maximum aperture f3.5 and it closes to f22.0. Generally, the lens is pretty small. It is 60mm tall with diameter 57mm. The Olympus lens uses very small 46mm front filters and it weighs only 128 grams. So overall, it is another example of small prime lens for Micro Four Thirds system, which easily fits in a bag or a jacket whenever you need to take it with you. The entire construction of the lens is very well made from high quality plastic, except of the mount, which is made out of metal. The mount of Olympus lens is equipped with pins, which means that the lens communicates with camera body to provide autofocus and other functions. If it comes to optics, it contains 7 glass elements in 6 groups, which are supported by 7 aperture blades, which are gently curved in order to provide round bokeh bows. It is a very simplified lens which contains only one functional element, which is nicely made focus ring. The ring sends focus signal to a camera by wire, which can cause some delays in manual focus mode. The ring works very smoothly and precisely, and its size makes it really easy to use. What's also worthy to mention, all glass elements move internally, so the lens doesn't change its length. Olympus 30mm macro lens does not belong to Pro series, so it's not weather sealed and it doesn't have image stabilizer. If you'll decide to purchase this lens, it comes without a hood, which is actually quite logic, and I will try to explain it later in this video. What I also found pretty interesting about this lens is the fact that its front glass element is way smaller than you can find it in a bag. And yeah, it doesn't really mean anything, but that's something rare to see. During my tests, I checked how the lens performs for different aperture values, and let's see results. From the very beginning, the lens is already very sharp for maximum aperture f3.5. It has very good sharpness and contrast in the middle of the frame, which remains almost the same in corners. Corners may be slightly softer, but for most of users there is no difference really. Closing down the aperture to f4.5, the lens achieves excellent sharpness with very good contrast, and corners remain almost the same as central part of the frame. The lens has very similar characteristics up to aperture f8.0. For f11, results are really comparable to f3.5, however the image is slightly less saturated. Closing down the aperture to f16 and above, the image starts to be noticeably softer and even less saturated, but it's still fully usable. I found this graph on one of the websites which describes corner-to-corner sharpness of Olympus 30mm lens, and I think it's quite accurate based on my tests. For maximum aperture f3.5, Olympus lens suffers from vignetting, however it hasn't been interrupting my images I have taken during last 3 months. Distortions are very well controlled and I haven't observed any. Stopping down the aperture to f4.5, the lens doesn't suffer from vignetting anymore, and any other common optical issues. It remains almost the same for all apertures up to f11. The only downgrade can be noticed for small apertures like f16 and smaller. As you can see on the grid, all black lines lost a little bit of contrast and sharpness. In my third test, I checked AF performance of this lens together with my Panasonic G80. So, going straight to the point, let's see results. Testing the lens, I decided to record very simple video in 4K for maximum aperture f3.5. As you can see on the video, the lens is very quick, accurate, and doesn't hunt a lot. Of course, you can notice some hunting, but keep in mind that Panasonic cameras are known from pretty bad AF system. What's quite common for most of macro lenses, AF efficiency is decreased for objects standing very close to a camera. But due to the short focal length, this lens managed it quite well. Overall, autofocus works very well and doesn't cause many problems. Most of the time the lens is fully reliable. If it comes to AF motor, it's worthy to mention that this lens is completely silent while focusing. So we finally came to the moment when I'm going to talk about advantages and disadvantages of this lens. And let's start with pluses. First of all, its optical performance is simply great. I haven't observed any noticeable downgrade of images closing down the aperture to f16. In addition, chromatic aberrations are well controlled, however can be observed on edges while shooting in harsh light environment. Secondly, Olympus 30mm lens is a cheap lens, but at the same time it's very well made. The entire construction is made from high quality plastic, which gives a really premium feeling, and all parts are assembled together with the highest precision. Another plus of this lens is its maximum magnification 1.25 to 1, which is equivalent to 2.5 to 1 for full frame cameras. This is absolutely amazing result. Although the lens has been designed for macro photography, it is a very nice all-around lens with versatile focal length of 30mm. If the maximum aperture f3.5 is not an issue for you, I think it may be one of your favorite lenses for daily basis, like portraits, street photography and landscapes. Due to quite slow maximum aperture, this lens is not meant to be a bokeh monster. However, it creates really pleasant and smooth autofocus background for macro shots, as you can see on these images. Last thing which is worthy to mention is its AF performance, which is very good for stills and videos. I haven't had any issues at all shooting with this lens. Additionally, its AF motor is completely silent. It's time for disadvantages, and as a first thing I have to mention minimum focus distance of 10 cm, which is available for maximum magnification 1.25 to 1. And in this case, the main problem is that the lens is too close to the object. It means that we will have a lot of difficulties to get enough light for correct exposure. So yeah, that's something pretty strange because this lens can shoot extreme macro, and the problem is it's not really usable. And let's see one of my results when I try to use speed light. And now imagine adding a lens hood. Well, it won't work. In case of macro, it would only limit amount of light coming to a camera sensor. So in my opinion, that's one of the reasons why this lens comes without a lens hood, because it's not needed. But okay, before any criticism, don't get me wrong, it is possible to shoot with maximum magnification, however you will require very long exposure time or specially designed light setup. But if it comes to good informations, I had no issues taking images, having my object around 12 cm from the camera. As a second disadvantage, I have to mention lack of weather sealing. In my opinion, every even simple lens is supposed to have a gasket around the mount. I think it's very easy to make, and in my opinion it protects not only the lens, but also a camera sensor. As a last small disadvantage, I can mention lack of any additional switches or scale, which are usually very helpful for macro photography. Luckily, this lens is quite easy to focus due to quite short focal length, and it shouldn't cause any issues for most of users. It's finally time to give you my own opinion about the lens. Overall, it is a nicely made, very simple lens with excellent optical performance. It doesn't have any extra switches, buttons and other functional elements except of focus ring. Although the Olympus lens is pretty solid, it doesn't have any weather protection, which means that you will have to be very careful using this lens against rain, fog or dust. If it comes out of focus system, I'm really satisfied with it. Additionally, the focus ring is really nicely made and provides good grip, which allows on the best precision while focusing on an object. If you'll decide to buy this lens brand new, it costs around 250–300 euro. I have been using this lens a lot during the last 3 months, and it was always with me during trips to local mountains and parks. It has been very useful to take macro photos or local nature, landscapes and portraits. Due to very versatile focal length of 30mm, this lens does it all. I think this lens is definitely worth buying if you are interested with macro. It is very easy to use and it almost doesn't need bracketing and stacking for most of macro shots. You really get what you pay for, and I think that's the best macro lens available on the market for such a low price. The only thing that I found a little bit problematic was shooting with maximum magnification. Most likely these shots require specific light setup, but I haven't observed any other problems with this lens. If this video was somehow useful and informative to you, don't forget to leave a like. Definitely let me know what's your opinion about my content, and if you have any questions concerning Olympus 30mm lens, leave your questions down in comment section. In the nearest future I plan to make a comparison of Olympus 30 and Olympus 60mm lenses. So if you are interested with this topic and other videos on my YouTube channel, definitely don't forget to subscribe and click on notification bell so you will be informed about incoming video. I think that's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.